Welcome to the Carnivore Cast, a podcast focused on the carnivore diet and lifestyle, with practical advice from successful carnivores, citizen scientists, and top researchers. I'm your host, Scott Meslinski, and I'm here to speak with experts and experienced carnivores to get answers to your biggest and meatiest questions while helping you live your best life as a carnivore. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the Carnivore Cast on Patreon. By becoming a patron, you'll help us reach more people and continue to create content on Carnivore. There are also exclusive perks available, such as private Q&As, consultations with me, and more. Become a supporter at patreon.com/carnivorecast. Check the episode description for the link. Thank you, and I'll see you there. Reid is the carnivorous chef. After stumbling through diets for much of his life, he went from 410 pounds to 280 pounds on the ketogenic diet, and at the same time moved into cooking and the restaurant industry. He now uses the carnivore diet to help his mental health and sustain his weight loss. He creates content for those of us in the carnivore diet community that want to fulfill our culinary side of things, from cooking basics to enhancing your diet, as well as coming up with ideas as a community to keep the diet interesting. Welcome to the show, Reid. Excited to have you on.
Hey, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So 410 pounds. That's crazy. What got you there? What was your diet and health history like?
Well, I've been a big child. My whole life, I was really big. Like, I remember in 7th grade, I weighed 300 pounds, which is just crazy for,
wow,
a 12-year-old. And my diet is like any other typical, lower class diet. It's what's cheap, what I can get the most of for the least amount of money. And yeah, it's just how it is. Like, you have 4 to 5 people to feed in the household, and you only have so many options. So my diet consisted of like boxed hamburger helper or like cereals, just literal garbage that has basically no nutritional foundation. And that's what got me there. And it took a long time to understand that.
Yeah. And what else did you try along the way? Like, you've, as I read in the bio, you've been stumbling through diets for much of your life. I imagine you've tried almost everything. Tell us about some of the things that, seemed to work, didn't work. What did you experiment with?
What I first started with was just basic calorie reduction, and but I didn't do it in an intelligent way. Just trying it and seeing what to do. Or, a lot of people think they know what a diet should look like, and that usually involves severe restriction of calories. And for someone like me, even though I was big, I was still like pretty active. Like, I've been playing drums for 17 years, and that alone burns like a lot of calories if you're practicing 6 to 8 hours a day. And I didn't know that. So I'm sitting here at 400 pounds trying to eat, 1,200 calories. It was miserable the whole time. So that after that didn't work out, it started to lead into other things where I would read a book. Like, the first book I read on weight loss in general was Mark Sissel's book. Can't think of the title right off my head. It's Primal
Blueprint.
Primal Blueprint. Yeah. Yep. That's the first thing that I started to follow, and it was the first time that I was conscious of looking at what I should be doing as far as like my macros go, or my physical goals should be, or how many calories I should be eating. And just by looking at, what my fitness level is and what I need to do to bring it up, that helped me lose like an initial 30 pounds, like just that alone, and staying away from the processed garbage. Eventually that stalled out. I get neurotic about numbers pretty easily, so that kind of fizzled out, and it eventually led to maybe a few years after that initial 30 pounds, which stayed off. Don't get me wrong, it stayed off because I learned lessons from that book. Like, they still stick to this day, but the numbers are what got to me. So it didn't stick as well. A few years later, my dad has a heart attack, and I have an awakening kind of thing where I'm like, oh, this is my future if I don't take care of myself. And that's where I had heard of keto. So I wasn't on it, but I heard of it. So that was the first time I was like, I'm going to dive deep into this and see what I can do. And very quickly, I started losing weight again. I went from 370 to like 340 in the matter of like a month and a half or something like that. And over the course of another 6 months, I was down to 280 doing keto. And I was very happy with it. People were surprised. Like I would see people and they hadn't seen me because I was just focused on this, trying to lose weight, and it was working. So, that's just how it happened. And I guess over time it got convoluted. Well, over time I moved out of my parents' house, and was on my own, and you have your own ideas once you're away from other people who've been, influencing what you should think for your whole life. And it eventually just caught up with me thinking I know exactly what I'm doing. Basically stopping, looking into what is keeping me healthy, and kind of lying to myself, thinking that I'm keto when I'm really, I might be keto like 40% of the time, and I'm going out and eating Taco Bell, and just, it was a weird mind struggle for a good couple years. And I creeped my way back up to 398 pounds. At least that was the highest that I saw before I started Carnivore, which was last February. And the only reason why I started Carnivore is because I just kept hearing about it, and I knew it's just a ketogenic diet, but there's no plant material, and that's what scared me. It scared me for a long time to think about not having plants in my diet, and finally when I started, I saw Joe Rogan doing it, and that's really what pushed me over the edge. Like, oh, this guy who I look up to is doing it, and he's a very healthy man. So I was like, maybe there's something actually to this, because I don't know, just seeing people I've never heard of doing it that really pushed me into it. It was seeing somebody that I've been following for years helped me push me into it, and I saw pretty immediate success with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And where did cooking come into the picture?
Cooking came in with paleo. Like when I first started doing paleo, I realized that I needed to learn how to cook, because I'm not going to be able to get what I need from this box crap I was getting or from fast food. And basically, I lived in a small town, and we had a single gas station / grocery store. And every single day I cooked eggs, sweet potatoes, and greens, like turnip greens. I did that every single day for the entire time I was doing paleo. And over time, like at the beginning, obviously things were burnt and it's not good. But over time, you tweak everything and you do it every single day. You're going to learn how to do it. And that was my first introduction for cooking myself. But I've also just seen, like, my dad would cook for the whole family all the time, and he was always interested in trying new recipes. And I think it was just going to happen no matter what, just because it was falling into, like, it fell into my life already.
Yeah, that's really cool. And what were some of your initial results when finding Carnivore?
Basically, what made it stick for me is that quote unquote clinical depression, but at this point I'm not, because I remember at one point my mom was in the hospital and she had to get a major surgery done, and I was eating breakfast somewhere, I believe, and I just remember feeling the depression instead of getting trapped in it, because it's usually what happens to me whenever I'm depressed. I get trapped into it and it digs itself deeper and deeper. And I just remember sitting outside of it. It felt like I was sitting outside of myself, watching the depression happen instead of being sucked into it. And that's the first time I've ever felt something like that. So it was very interesting to see that I can step back from my mental health and look at it critically and see what's going on. Because I'm not sure why it's like that. I guess it's the mental clarity of this diet that I get. So That's definitely the major sticking point and the reason why I keep doing it. And the weight loss is just a byproduct that I enjoy, you know.
So how would you, that's really interesting. So how would you describe like the general feeling difference in your mental health on carnivore versus keto? Like what are some of the things that have changed for you?
I would say that on keto, I would more often find myself in depressed states. I'm not sure why that is. And I don't really have a great explanation as to the difference is what it is now. The only thing I can assume is that the plant matter I was taking in on keto was causing these type of issues, but I just don't know that for certain. It's just speculation at this point. And also, keto for me makes me make bad. Doesn't make keto for me lets me be more open about my decisions. Like if I look at a piece of sugar-free candy and I'm like, oh, that's keto because there's no glycemic load or whatever like that, I will probably get it. But on carnivore, I can't do that. And I guess it comes down to a choice, a restriction of choice for me. I think I need that much.
A lot of people ask me about how to make liver more tasteful and how to cook it or incorporate other organ meats on carnivore. Optimal Carnivore can help you do just that with their grass-fed organ complex. It was created by carnivores for carnivores. They start by sourcing 100% grass-fed organ meats from New Zealand, gently freeze-drying the organs and encapsulating them into convenient bovine gelatin capsules. Just 6 of these capsules a day is the same as eating an ounce of raw organ meat. I personally take these every single day, as does my wife. Even though we both eat liver and other organ meats, our ancestors would have eaten the whole animal. And this unique blend has 9 different organs, including beef liver, brain, thymus, kidney, spleen, etc. And I think it's great to get a daily dose of these organs when you can. So it covers all your bases, whether you're at home or traveling. What's also cool is they plant a tree for every product sold, which helps the environment. So visit www.optimalcarnivore.com/carnivorecast and use the code carnivore10 to receive 10% off your purchase. Thanks, and back to the show. So Reid, can you talk about like how you've used cooking as a part of this lifestyle and maybe like what it means to you personally and maybe some of your favorite carnivore recipes as well?
Honestly, I feel like the carnivore diet has expanded my knowledge of food because at a certain point, whenever you're eating everything, you don't really taste things individually. And I've noticed that if I'm at work and I'm eating something, I can kind of pick out things a lot better. And I'm assuming that's because it's not on my palate as often. So like if I'm eating like a béarnaise sauce at the restaurant I work at, I'm like, oh, I could taste the tarragon and I could taste the garlic and I could taste the black pepper. And that's a really nice little side effect. And I'm assuming it's just because I'm not fatiguing my palate with all these other flavors. And that's been really nice. And I think it's helped me be creative at work as well, even with the recipes that I do. And honestly, if I had to pick a favorite recipe, it's any of the carnivore taco recipes, just because it's insane what people can do with, like 2 or 3 ingredients. And it's just the most interesting thing I've found so far. And I might be a little bit biased too, just because I really like tacos, one of my favorite foods, So, but yeah, I think just the way my palate has changed on this diet is very interesting as well. So,
yeah, I really like that point you make about when you're eating everything, you kind of stop tasting things. It's very true. Many carnivores find like when you cut out a lot of foods, weird things happen. Like water starts tasting sweet and you notice the salt on your steak and different bites of meat taste completely different. It's really interesting how your palate changes.
Absolutely.
And can you describe like what is in a carnivore taco? How do you make a carnivore taco?
My recipe that I use pork rinds typically. It's pork rinds, eggs, and that's it. It's just pork rinds and eggs. I think I use 2 ounces. It's one whole egg per 1 ounce of ground pork rind. And I'll season it sometimes. Like I'll put like a little bit of cumin, maybe a touch of garlic and powder, because the actual plant material garlic kind of messes me up. So, and then typically we'll put steak in it, just because who doesn't like a good steak taco?
Yeah, sounds delicious.
Yeah.
And what does kind of a full day of eating look like for you on the carnivore diet?
Lately, it's been I've been on a cut, so it's been pretty high protein. First meal is typically about, I'd say, 10 to 12 ounces of a leaner cut, like a sirloin or a flank or something, and then 2 or 3 strips of bacon. I usually have a midday meal, which is mostly protein. It's usually a protein shake, and I'm glad I just started taking this one called Steak Shake by Mark Bell, and it's actually really good. And I
cool.
haven't had any stomach issues with it like I have with other proteins. There's not much in it other than like there was not much in the way of like emulsifiers or things like that. And I usually keep that second meal pretty simple, and then my last meal is pretty big, and it's like one of my favorite ones for my last meal is chuck roast, slow cooked chuck roast with a couple strips of bacon and hollandaise sauce. And it's just it's really good and it's simple.
And what do you think of the carnivore community in general, Reid, or what has surprised you about it as you become closer part of this group?
The thing that got me the most is just like the actual bond people have without even knowing each other. It feels like we're all in this together. Whereas I've been in other communities where people are kind of against you. It almost feels like we all stand up for each other. We all know where each other person's going through, so we kind of help each other out. It's really nice to see that. It actually feels like a good community. I very rarely feel like there's somebody trying to make me feel like less of a person because I, had a cheat meal, or I put garlic powder in my steak tacos. It's very rare to find those people, and it's nice. It's really nice. I feel very supported with the people that are following me on like Instagram, for example.
Yeah, it makes me really happy to hear that. I'm glad you found it to be that way, and I have too. And what are some of your personal goals, Reid, either with the diet, your health, things you're trying to achieve with your cooking? How are you thinking about that?
Right now, my goals around my diet are to continue this and to continue to keep my mental health at where it's been. Right now, I consider my mental health, the current state of mental health, I consider a baseline. So anything outside of that is just honestly unacceptable. So that's my main goal with this diet. And I'm just trying to, and as far as like fitness goals, I'm just trying to feel strong again, and which has been nice. But this diet's made that easy. Feel a lot stronger than I ever did when I was like powerlifting even. And I'd like to do a Spartan race. I think that'd be a fun thing to do this year. And then I have another goal of making my YouTube channel work for me. That's probably been outside of work. It's been the thing I've spent the most time on crafting and molding for myself. So I'm hoping by the end of this year, I will be at a place that I'm happy with.
That's fantastic. And what are some of the goals with your content and Carnivorous Chef? What are you trying to do there?
I really just want to share. I really just want to be creative and come up with recipe ideas that other people like, and I really want people to try them, but I also want just interesting things. Like if I see something that's just crazy, like if I see some new like fast food menu item that comes out and it's insane, like whatever Taco Bell comes up with every week, I just want to make that a carnivore. I want to make a carnivore version for that so people can enjoy. If they want to make it, they can, but I also want to entertain people. I want to be creative and I want to entertain people with what I'm doing. And at the same time, I want people to join along with me. Like I want people to make this food. I'd like to see other people participating and just having fun with it, because it's too easy to get stuck in a cycle of I ate a steak today, I ate a steak again today, and tomorrow I have a steak.
And Reid, what about cooking, carnivore, your content? Like what gets you really excited or what fills you with purpose?
That's a great question. I suppose really it's just the challenge and the creative, like the challenge to be creative on this diet. It's not easy because you're very limited, but at the same time, it's invigorating because you have to sit down and think critically about how other food works. Like if I need the texture of bread, how am I going to get that? You have to think of like, oh, maybe whipped egg whites that are cooked might be like bread, which somebody just told me about protein sparing bread, which is basically, it's pretty close, and I didn't even know that was a thing already. So it's just, I guess it's just the challenge within the creativity.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love how you approach that. And where can people find you? I know you have a Patreon page, Instagram, Facebook, anywhere else, and I'll have links to all of this in the show notes, Reid.
Yes, I also have a TikTok, and they're all at Carnivore Chef.
Awesome. Great. Well, I'll link to all of that. And this has been fantastic. Really appreciate you taking the time. And I think folks will love following you and discovering more of your recipes and content. I know I have.
All right, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the Carnivore Cast on Patreon. By becoming a patron, you'll help us reach more people and continue to create content on carnivore. There are also exclusive perks available, such as private Q&As, consultations with me, and more. Become a supporter at patreon.com/carnivorecast. Check the episode description for the link. Thank you, and I'll see you there. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Carnivore Cast. If you enjoyed this episode, please review on iTunes. It really helps us out. And share it with a friend. What questions would you like answered? Or who would you like to hear from in the carnivore research community? You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at CarnivoreCast or go to carnivorecast.com. You can also email me at info@carnivorecast.com. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep it carnivore.